You're listening to A State of the Union, Estate Planning Made Simple. Here's your host, Brad Wiewel, from the Wiewel Law Firm in Austin, Texas.
Hi, this is Brad Wiewel with the Estate of the Union, and we are here talking about all manner of estate planning, probate, elder law, special needs, asset protection, taxes, the panoply of things that have to do with estate planning and your life and your disability and your death. We've got a lot of programs that have already been posted. This is a brand new, of course, we're doing today. And we are thankful to have Melissa Donovan here with us today. And Melissa is an attorney here with the Wiewel Law Firm. She is our Director of Elder Law and Special Needs here at the Wiewel Law Firm. We're changing our name. You remember that, right?
We are.
Changing our name to Texas Trust Law, which happens to be our website. You go to texastrustlaw.com and see other podcasts and lots of videos and things like that. So Melissa is the Director of Elder Law and Special Needs at Texas Trust Law. Da-da-da. Anyway, today, Melissa, we are going to search through your voluminous brain. And we're going to talk about special needs planning. Now, before we get into this, I want to explain about Melissa. Melissa's really a fantastic lawyer. She is a CELA, Certified Elder Law Attorney. Now, it's a very difficult designation to get. There are only around 30 of these lawyers in the state of Texas, which is the second largest state in the country. Melissa is an expert with this, and she does elder law when we help people access Medicaid and things like that. She is also an expert in special needs planning, where we have to help families that have autistic children, disabled children, Down's children, whatever, again, access benefits in a way that they can have full benefit of those benefits, but not get disqualified along the way, which is a scary thing, right?
It certainly can be, and we never really want to put anyone in danger of having a child, a loved one, lose the benefits, particularly the healthcare benefits that really mean so much to them.
They do mean so much. And so what we're going to do today with Melissa is we're going to talk about these new things called ABLE accounts. And I know that much about them. Melissa knows this much about them. So Melissa, why don't you start and share with everybody what an ABLE account is?
So an ABLE account is very similar to a 529 account that a lot of people have come to be familiar with over time, 529 being a college savings plan.
Okay, sure.
So what ABLE accounts do, similarly to 529 accounts, is they allow for an individual to have essentially an investment account that is tax deferred, grows tax free, and you can use for particular things. The main difference is that as people have come to be familiar with 529s, like I said, those can be used for education. With an ABLE account, they're used for what are called qualified disability expenses.
Okay,
so
all right.
Really what it is, like, it's a 529, but rather than for education, it's for people who have some kind of an incapacity where previously they would not have been able to have any kind of account like this in their own name. Now they can, and it's not going to affect their benefits. Up to specific dollar amounts, but we'll kind of get into that later.
We'll get to that. I'm going to step back because I'm going to bet, and you never want to take me to Vegas because I'm not a good bettor, but I'm going to bet that a lot of our listeners really don't know what a 529 account is, so I'll kind of prep that. All right, so a 529 account is it's a college savings account. It's really now can be used for any level of education, even private school or whatever, elementary school, and so on. It's where somebody could I can take money and put into this 529 account, and it's my state for estate tax purposes. It grows income tax free, so the money that it earns doesn't show up on my tax return. I can use it for a beneficiary for their education, and if they graduate and there's still money left in the account, I can direct it to another loved one, and they can use it too. And so it's really it's becoming more common. We get a lot of questions on the estate planning side of our practice about, well, I want to set aside money for my grandchildren, and you can do that, and maybe we'll have a whole program on grandchildren gifting. It'd be a pretty popular program.
Everybody loves their grandkids.
They love their grandkids, and these grandkids are perfect, and they're always going to be perfect, and they grew up and be people, and then they're not so perfect, but grandma and grandpa don't ever know that, because we don't want you to know that. That's a fact. That is a fact. Anyway, but, so 529 accounts, if you want to know more about 529 accounts, there's a great website called savingforcollege.com. And you can go there and you can learn all about them. So what, Melissa, I think what you're saying is, rather than a 529 account where I put money in for the education of my family, and I can draw it out and they can go to college or private school or whatever,
Right.
An ABLE account is, again, like a 529 account, but I'm using it for a special needs person. So,
Correct.
why can't I use a 529 account for them?
Well, actually, you can in certain parameters, but it's much more limited, because what did you just say about 529s? You can only use them for education expenses.
Okay,
So
sure,
that's the big
sure.
difference. With an ABLE account, the term is qualified disability expenses, and of course, what does that mean? But really what it means is that you can use that account for anything that the government has deemed acceptable for those individuals.
So it's a broader deal.
It's much, much broader. So it includes things like housing, travel, legal expenses, therapies that aren't covered through Medicaid,
Okay.
Anything like that. So it's you can use it for education too, but it's
Okay.
a lot broader.
Okay.
So it's much more beneficial.
For a
For the
special
beneficiary.
person who has developmental disabilities and has a limit as to how much money they can have?
Exactly.
Okay.
And there are some key, intricacies with ABLE accounts, because
Okay.
not every incapacitated individual can open them.
Okay.
There are rules about, who can actually have an ABLE account. So the biggest thing that I run across question-wise from clients is, I have a little bit of money, I want to put it in an account, can I do an ABLE account? Really the big question is, when did the incapacity appear?
Oh, that's
So-
interesting. So there's an age limit.
There is. So
Right. Huh.
the individual, what we call the designated beneficiary,
This
the
is
person,
the disabled person.
right, so
Okay.
the person who the account is for, that incapacitated individual had to have been diagnosed with their incapacity before they turned 26.
Oh, wow. Now that's interesting.
So, yeah, it's really for individuals who,
Kind of
what
born
a lot
with
of
the
people
issue.
think of. They were born with some kind of incapacity, and not necessarily, it has to be born, but it's such a young age that
Right.
most of those individuals, they are conditions that were, either born with, kind of developed very, very early in
So
life.
if I've got an adult child who was in a motorcycle wreck and they have a brain injury and they're 35, I can't set up an ABLE account.
Not as of right now.
Do you know why that was?
So the reasoning for it is, with many things, I'm sure, is you want to kind of limit the class of individuals at some level.
Because
But
this is a big tax saving thing.
it is a big tax saving
Sure.
thing, and it does allow for more money to be held for someone who is receiving those benefits. Sometimes I don't venture to guess the internal workings
No,
of the
Congress
legislature.
is, it's a little murky, can we say that? Murky?
Always a little
Always
murky,
murky,
but-
and so they don't really set out in the law, oh, by the way, we're only doing this for these people, because they just set the age and that's
Right,
that. Okay,
right.
okay. So it is 20, you have to have this disability prior to age 26?
Correct.
All right.
So once you've kind of developed that underlying eligibility, then what can happen is the other side of the ABLE account is less of the financial side of things, more of the allowing someone to feel like they have some independence in life.
Okay.
Because prior to the ABLE accounts, prior to that law being passed, if I was an incapacitated individual, one of the things that I think a lot of people forget is incapacitated doesn't necessarily mean mentally incapacitated.
Okay, all
So
right.
you could have individuals pre-2014 that had perfect mental capacity.
Okay.
They could be very intelligent, but they were physically unable.
So cerebral
to work.
palsy or something like that. Right.
Something where they're mentally able to make decisions for themselves, but they don't have the physical capacity to.
Okay.
And pre-ABLE account, there was no system in place for them to be able to feel like they had some independence and the ability to manage things on their own. So there were several laws that were passed around that same time frame that now allow for that person to kind of get that sense of autonomy back, where they feel like, oh, I can have this money and I can control it, and it's not going to lose me the benefits that I have. So that's kind of part of it as well, is there's been a very large push around the community in dealing with special needs concerns and disability to want to have someone who does have a disability and kind of give them back that sense of autonomy that they had not had previously.
Because they're very limited if they're over 18. Under 18, these rules don't apply. Over 18, they can only have a very small amount of property, but the ABLE account can go on top of that. So how much can they have on their own and still qualify for supplemental security and SSI and Medicaid?
So for SSI and most Medicaid programs, you're going to be limited to essentially $2,000 in what are called countable assets.
$2,000, not $20,000, not $200, $2,000.
$2,000. So
wow.
Clearly not much.
Not much. Not hardly anything.
Right. So if, let's say, someone has $1,990 in their account and suddenly someone tosses in another $200 there, that could cause an issue the following month. They could lose a month of benefits or whatnot. So those are the things that you can avoid pretty simply with an ABLE account. And I'm a big proponent of ABLE accounts personally. Just like anything else, everybody has their own opinions on things.
Sure.
I'm a strong proponent of them. I think they're really helpful when used properly, because there are correct ways to use them and there are not so correct ways to use them.
Before we get into the correct and incorrect, let's go back and just again for our viewers and listeners. So an ABLE account is kind of like a special savings account, all right? That somebody could put money in for the disabled person. Can they put their own money in?
Yes, they actually can. And
okay.
they've expanded that a little bit a couple of years ago.
Right.
So it used to be that ABLE accounts really were just used, you could only put combined total, whoever was putting the money in, whether it was the designated beneficiary, the incapacitated person, or it was family, friends, whatnot. You could only put, we always say $15,000 a year into it. Really, that tracks with the gift tax exemption.
Right, because you can gift anybody $15,000 a year in 2021, and there's no gift tax complications for you or them or anybody else.
Exactly.
Right?
So whatever that exemption amount may be in any given year, that's what you can put total into the ABLE account. But that's everybody. That doesn't mean mom can put $15,000 in and grandpa can put $15,000 in. It means of all total combined money put in that account in 1 year, that's the limit. What they did a couple of years ago is because, like I was saying, there are scenarios where someone maybe isn't incapacitated to the level that a lot of people would think, where they're completely unable to do anything. There are certainly scenarios where people are able to work a little bit and still obtain benefits like SSI and Medicaid. So they did expand it. So now on top of the $15,000 that can be placed in through general gifting, the actual designated beneficiary can also include their own income. And that on top of it.
So that's nice.
It almost doubled how much could be put in the account. Is it likely that that's going to be the most common scenario? No, but it certainly did help.
So, but what I know about ABLE accounts, again, this much, Melissa knows this much. There's a cap as to how much could be in an ABLE account, is that right?
There is. So what happens with the ABLE account is there's two benefits that we need to look at. There's the federal, there's the SSI benefit, and then there's the Medicaid benefit. So the way that the ABLE accounts work is up until you have $100,000 in the ABLE account, it is not going to affect any kind of SSI benefit. You will maintain SSI, you will maintain Medicaid in any state in the country.
So I can have $2,000 plus an ABLE account with $100,000. And I'm still cool, I still get all my benefits. All right, good.
Now, the higher number is if you get to $100,000, and let's say now you've got $100,000 and 3 cents in the account.
Very good.
You will lose your SSI benefits at that point. However, you may not lose your Medicaid.
Okay.
So long as you're otherwise qualified still for Medicaid.
Okay.
Meaning the other assets are still below the 2,000,
Oh,
you
that's
still meet
interesting.
those
Okay.
qualifications.
All right.
In Texas, you can have up to $370,000 in the ABLE account and still qualify for Medicaid, meaning not have that account affect your Medicaid benefit at all.
Now, if I lose my SSI, that's, how much is my SSI benefit to begin with? It's not a lot.
It's about $900.
A month?
Well, actually, right now it's about $800, forgive me, but that's a month. And that does, it increases a little bit year to year.
And very little.
Yeah.
Very little. So, well, that's really interesting. So, this is a way to grow the amount that's available for the beneficiary, the disabled beneficiary, incapacitated beneficiary, and gosh, that's 375,000?
370 in the state of Texas.
Wow, in Texas. So again, we have listeners and viewers in other states, so don't do this at home. Melissa is a CELA. So it's nice, Melissa, to have all this money in an ABLE account. How do you get it out?
So what's going to happen is you are going to have usually someone other than the beneficiary that is controlling the account.
Sure,
so,
because they may be mentally unable to access that, sure.
So it's going to be a parent or a guardian if the person had a guardian appointed by a court. It could be a power of attorney if the beneficiary had the ability to sign a power of attorney previously. But they're going to request the funds from the company that is administering it. So this is not something where, you've got an account down at your local, credit union or Bank of America or something like that. It is run by particular organizations in every state. The state runs it. They've got an investment company that acts as the administrator for it.
Who would that be in Texas?
In Texas, it's been North Star Financial.
Okay.
But everything, you generally are going to sign up for the ABLE account by going to the state website. So here in Texas, it's texasable.org.
All right, texasable.org. Go there. And so you set up the account. How do you literally get the money into it?
So what will happen is that you will do either a electronic deposit. Sometimes words just kind of skip your head for a second.
Dig it out, dig it out.
But you're generally going to do some kind of an electronic transfer into it.
Okay.
You could, if there was a situation where there was, sometimes the biggest reason I like ABLE accounts is for emergency situations. The things that you don't expect to happen, like you suddenly are a beneficiary in someone's will and it was, $5,000 from grandma to you. There's going to be a check, so then you would have to be mailing in that information. You have to get it in there. Now, in getting it out, it's a matter of requesting the funds to be placed into another account to be able to pay other
And then
things.
the person who, again, the guardian or parent or whoever set up the account, then takes the money that has been distributed and uses it for the benefit of the beneficiary.
Exactly.
All right. Now, you said something earlier that was very interesting and a little mysterious. Mysterious. And that is that ABLE accounts aren't for everybody, or there's times when it may not be appropriate. So that's interesting. That is mysterious. So help us with that.
So this is why I say there's good ways and there's bad ways to use an ABLE account.
All right, let's go to that. That's really interesting stuff.
Because there are so many times where I talk to people, whether it's a client or just a financial advisor or someone who works in this arena, and they say, well, I've been told you shouldn't have an ABLE account. And you shouldn't have an ABLE account because, well, it's going to go back to Medicaid anyway.
Okay.
And that's the key.
Is that true?
It is true.
All right.
So the way that the ABLE accounts were structured, if there is money remaining in the account at the death of the beneficiary, and that individual had been receiving Medicaid benefits, the money that is remaining in the account will be subject to paying Medicaid back first.
Okay.
If there's money left after paying Medicaid back, then any remainder can go on to other beneficiaries. But it's going to go to Medicaid first.
So if the beneficiary has received up to that point, let's say it can start at 3 and now they're 35 and pass away, they've received a lot of thousands and tens of thousands of dollars. If I have the 370 left in my little account, all that goes back to the state.
If that's how much Medicaid is paid out on behalf of that beneficiary since
really
the opening of the account.
And that's why you may not want so much.
Right. So I always, when I'm talking to clients and, like I said, financial advisors or whatnot, my goal in telling people that an ABLE account is a really nice thing to have is, I kind of said this earlier, it's more so for emergencies. And I know that use of the term emergency might sound kind of strange because you don't think of, well, I have an inheritance being an emergency. Most people think of that as a blessing. And it is, but if I have a child who is receiving Medicaid benefits to help pay for all of their therapies and services for a condition that is highly expensive, and I need that.
Right.
And yes, it's nice that, you know, grandma or grandpa or aunt or uncle left them some money. If that $3,000 is going to knock me off of a medical benefit.
Because I only get $2,000 to keep my benefits, again, more than that.
Right. So if that $3,000 is going to inadvertently knock my child off of a healthcare benefit that's covering thousands of dollars in expenses in a month, that's a big deal.
Sure, it's a huge deal.
So it's a blessing and not a blessing at the same time. So those are the situations where if I have that $3,000 come in and I have an ABLE account, I can take that $3,000 and put it directly in my child's ABLE account, and then my child's not going to be risking losing those benefits for any month.
Nice. Now, do you have to have the ABLE account set up, or can I set up like right away?
You can set them up pretty quickly.
Okay.
Just like most bank accounts. You set it up, you go online, you can fill out all of the information, get it. You just have to have, I think it's a $50 minimum to
really?
open
Okay,
it.
so not $5,000.
So no, you don't have to have a ton of money to open it to begin with, and it's something that's nice to have there just in case, those situations. The other thing that's come up a lot this year in particular with clients is, well, my 19-year-old just got a stimulus check.
Oh, a stimulus check, sure, because people got them from the government, $1,400, whatever it was.
And we got a lot of phone calls at the beginning of everything from our clients that do have children with special needs, very concerned, well, is this stimulus check going to knock us off of benefits, and what do we do with it?
Right.
And while it wouldn't for 12 months, thankfully, the way that they set it up. But at the beginning, when everything was still so in flux, we were able to easily tell our clients, do you have the ABLE account set up? Toss it in the ABLE account.
Right. If not, set one up and...
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you don't want to have too much because, again, it can end up going back to the state to repay the state, which I understand they've laid out tens of thousands of dollars, and they wouldn't mind receiving some back at the end of the day.
Right, and there's nothing wrong with them getting paid back. The issue is that they are paid back generally from the beneficiary's money.
Yes.
Not other people's money.
My money, right.
Right, and that's the big difference is because there was a period of time where a lot of people were kind of questioning are ABLE accounts like the new substitute for third-party special needs trust that we talked about in a previous podcast. But it's not, and it's helpful. They're helpful for small things, but I would not recommend that you use the ABLE account as your main gifting venue from mom and dad and grandpa because of the payback feature.
Okay.
You don't want to be putting third-party money unnecessarily into an account just to stack the money in there. That's going to go back to Medicaid.
Right, so a third-party trust, which Melissa did talk about on a previous podcast, you can go back and listen to that too, is where if I'm grandpa and I've got an incapacitated grandchild and I want to put money in to supplement that, then I want to dump $100,000, maybe $1 million into this. The difference is, as I understand it, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is the money in the account I set up for that child, if I do it correctly with a qualified special needs attorney, this third party, because I'm the third party giving it to the beneficiary, the first party, then when the beneficiary dies, the money that's left in that third party trust can come back to my family, not to the state.
Right.
Okay, got it. So that's a big advantage too.
It is. So they are really useful as, two tools that complement each other. But I wouldn't say that one replaces the other.
Okay, all right.
Just another tool in the toolbox.
Good. Do you have any just general advice on how much you might recommend somebody have, or, a minimum or a maximum?
So what I usually give as advice to my clients is there's no need to immediately overfund an ABLE account.
Okay.
Go ahead, open it up if you put a couple $100 in there, or even if you just open it up with the $50 that you need to open up the account. Then you have it. It's there as a vehicle when it's necessary in an emergency, or if, if someone just wants to give a little bit of money, but let's say, aunt or uncle wants to give the birthday present to Tommy, and Tommy's already got $1,800 in a bank account. So, Auntie Sarah can still give him $200, but put it into the ABLE account as opposed to his checking account. So I don't really tell clients one way or another, you should have this amount of money. More so for me, it's you want to have it for emergencies, but you don't want to treat it like I'm going to put $500 in there every month.
Right,
or
like
whatnot.
a savings account.
It's not. I wouldn't use it as a savings account. Absolutely not.
All right. Well, this is really, really interesting stuff, and this is really, really important stuff. And as a listener, a viewer, you may or may not have a child with special needs, but you probably know people who do. My experience is that everybody knows somebody that has a loved one with special needs. And so we would really encourage you to share this presentation and the previous one we did with Melissa on special needs planning, because this is critical stuff. And as with most areas of estate planning, people don't want to think about it because it's complex and it's scary and it can be expensive, and they go, but this is something that can't be ignored. You may be able to ignore having a will, and the state's got a will for you. We've talked about that with Ann Lumley. You can watch her podcast, listen to her podcast on this. But when it comes to taking care of a special needs person, the most vulnerable person in our society, if this isn't done and it's not done correctly, it is a disaster for that person and a disaster that will last a long time. So if you've got a loved one, a friend, an acquaintance with, again, a person with special needs in their family, have them watch this. They can always call the Wiewel Law Firm, TexasTrustLaw.com.
We're still getting used to it.
Still getting used to that, that's right. And our number is 512-480-8828. They can set up an appointment with Melissa. We typically have, for Melissa, and these areas of law, it's a $250 initial consultation fee. It's very minimal. It lasts for an hour. She can kind of give you a sense of what's going on during that period of time. We can also would be happy to see you for estate planning or probate needs or whatever. Again, if you're not a Texan, we can connect you with other lawyers in other parts of the country, and they can help you with something more local and appropriate in your state too. We try to live biblical lives here, and we try to do things the right way. It's not something that we're experts at, but we do try to, again, follow what we feel like the Lord is leading us, and it's led us to do these podcasts, and we hope you like it. We've got podcasts on our website, TexasTrustLaw.com. We've got videos. You can download our books. We have lots of books on there, and you can download any of the books we have. We have a new book coming out. Wade is our producer here, right, Wade? That is right. We got a new book that will be coming out. I'm not going to share it with you yet, but in about 2 weeks it'll be out. It'll be out hopefully by, let's say, September 1st for sure. So stand by, and when we have the new book, we'll talk about that too. But we appreciate you watching. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate anything we can do for you. And I'm going to thank Melissa Donovan again.
Thank you, Brad.
Our Director of Elder Law and Special Needs here at Texas Trust Law. And have a great day. Thank you very much.